A very pleasant good afternoon as we welcome you into the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. We are at Quaker Steak Lube, which is our home away from home. We're here Tuesday and Thursday afternoons from 2 to 4 o'clock. Lots to get into today coming off of the unofficial whiteout weekend and Penn State's victory over Illinois, as the Nittany Lions now get ready for a matchup with UCLA. And, of course, a pending trip a week from Saturday to USC for the 3:30 Eastern Time kickoff against the Trojans. Goon obviously celebrating the 1994 team over the weekend. I understand
what? There was
that it was a pretty good celebration for you guys, from what I hear.
Not bad, my man. Not bad. It was. We had the whole weekend. We had the Friday afternoon, 3 to 6 over the Football Letterman's Lounge, which is a normal occurrence.
Yep.
And then from 7 to 9, we had just the 94 reunion up at the Lash building. Beautiful. By the way, I hadn't been in there in a long time, and it was absolutely amazing what they've done in there. Perfectly set up for that type of an event. Had about 75 players show up throughout the weekend, wives, kids, all that stuff. So, and then Saturday morning through, I guess at 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock was the official 94 reunion tailgate at the Spikes put on by Penn State, but we started at 8 o'clock.
No kidding.
Yes.
I am absolutely shocked, stunned,
it happened.
Beside myself.
It happened. I got about 10, 12 hours sleep the whole weekend. I'm not going to lie.
That sounds about
right. It was
right.
worth it. It was worth it seeing all the guys. Great guys. Just everybody gets along. We're all still very, very tight. All have all that, everything we went through in college together and all. And just some funny stories throughout the weekend. I mean, my favorite one is Terry called me about 2 months ago and said, listen, I'm a high school football coach. I got a Friday night game, so I can't make it till Saturday morning. Can you arrange to have somebody pick me up? I said, sure, I got you, buddy. I called my nephew who was coming up for the game. I said, hey, you mind picking up? He's like, it'd be an honor. And then as time went on, Kerry calls me. He's like, hey, I got 5 guys, me and 4. I'm like, oh, we need 2 cars then. So my wife and our friend Mara decided to take care of those guys. And, so what do you think? A private jet from Nashville to State College, and then from State College back to Nashville the next morning. That's pretty good money. And my wife dropped them off at the house, and they rented the place sight unseen.
Yeah.
Single wide. They had 5 guys, 2 of which were 6'5" and above. One was close over 300 pounds, and KC was still about 240. Yeah. So I think that those 2 laying. They if they laid head to head, they took the whole place up. And there's 3 of the guys just like, I don't know, they slept in cabinets. I don't know what it was, but just some of the funny stuff from the weekend. Just seeing everybody, all the stories. They all come back. We were all really, really good. I mean, that's just as you get older, the better you get, right?
How about it? Now, it doesn't need to be much any exaggerating for you guys to talk about how good that team was in 94.
Yeah, I mean, some people had talked about, like, they were messing and complaining about, some people, about not being introduced individually. And I said, well, I don't know who decided to do it with homecoming, but I understand that homecomings, it's already jocked full. We already know.
Yeah.
So, but I say that as a guy who doesn't have children, and I think that maybe some guys would have appreciated being called out on the field, their name over the loudspeaker, for their children to hear it. You know what I mean? That's where a little bit of it is for me. But other than that, I'm me.
It is problematic. I mean, you can't. There's not time between quarters to do that, and because of the halftime alumni band appearance,
court,
and the only other thing you could conceivably do, but then I don't even know where you would do it in there, but it doesn't give them the proper recognition. Would be before the game, but you got people still trying to file into their seats, and I mean, you'd have to do it before the blue band gets out there, right? And you don't want, like, you want the stadium to see it. It is a bit of a conundrum with it being the homecoming game that they did it, but to me, Goon, that felt like the appropriate time to do it.
It was the Illinois game, so that was like our marquee game.
But not even. I mean, that's an added bonus. But I just mean the homecoming, because the that's when the alumni are invited back. Just the Penn State alumni. I don't know. It feels. I mean, I'm not saying you couldn't do it another weekend. That just felt. And yes, even more so because it was Illinois, but that just felt like the appropriate time. But maybe it would have been better to do it a different weekend and do it, do the halftime. Because I do agree. You guys deserved having your names read off. I don't know.
I don't know how you do. Yeah.
The logistics just make that really, really difficult.
And it is what it is. I get it, but I mean, I know some people don't get it.
Yeah. I could understand being disappointed by that. I could certainly understand.
I mean, does it behoove us to do it at Kent State? And then you could have a halftime presentation and all, which would be fine.
Yeah.
But I think that some people wanted it to be the Illinois game because of how much the ramifications of the '94 Illinois game came into play. That's just my 2 cents. But just unbelievable weekend. I don't know did you get out there at all? I didn't see you.
Yeah.
I could have seen you, but there was 6,000 people there.
Yes, I did not make it over to your tailgate. I was up there, went in, had the binoculars on you.
Oh, really?
On the, you and I was watching you and Kerry, and then LeVar, obviously not part of the '94 team, but I think LeVar was having a good time. Saturday was my takeaway, but I will say this: the atmosphere there. And it was interesting because I went up and I ended up going over to my one buddy's tailgate, and we're just kind of sitting there looking around. It's me and his family basically, and we're just taking everything in. And I'm like, and we all kind of made the comment separately and at different times. It's like, this is a more subdued crowd. Now, this is before the game, and they always tailgate in the same area. And it's up near the RV lot, so it's kind of in behind the Ag Arena there near Orchard Road. And not that it's ever like you're not getting the raucous, hey, here we go, but it just didn't seem as busy in that area, that particular area, and the energy was. I've seen it more energized, that parking lot. And so I'm thinking, man, maybe this is going to be more of a subdued night. And I don't know if it's just the weather or because the weather ended up being just fine. But as I'm walking up to the stadium then, and I go up fairly early, kind of same thing. I'm looking through the lots, and it's like, I mean, people are tailgating, but it didn't feel like, man, this isn't like a big game atmosphere. And then you get into the stadium, and I'm kind of doing some other things, getting ready and working on my computer. And I look up, and as the students come in, like, it's hard to explain, but like you can literally feel the energy starting to just come from the stands. And I am telling you, by the time that game got to kickoff, that is as electric a crowd as I remember there being at Beaver Stadium, and that includes like the Ohio State. That includes any game you want to throw up there. I'd put it right there with those crowds, and it was just a fun night, and the game played out largely, Goon, as I think. Landon Tengwall and I were kind of on the same page. Yeah, this is going to be a close game for a while, but I think Penn State will pull away. I really felt like the coordinators for Penn State would make whatever adjustments. And I'm kind of kidding up in the press box. It's like, well, if they make the 2 field goals, pretty much in terms of the difference, I had it at 38-17 as my predicted final. I thought both teams would score a little more. But a couple of like more big picture takeaways for me was I remain convinced that this program has elite coordinators. I think what Tom Allen did with that defense and adjusting and making life more difficult for Illinois, and I think that is a really good offense that Illinois has. I think that is a good offensive line. I think the difference in that quarterback from a year ago to this year is pretty remarkable. And he made great decisions, had some really good throws. And it's a good running game that complements it. So to hold that team, however you do it, to 7 points is not an insignificant achievement. Well, and that's the thing. They go down. I thought, worried. Well, they almost got they talk about football being a game of inches. You hear it all the time. Man, it really is, because Penn State was a whisker away from getting a 3-and-out on that first drive against Illinois. But again, credit, great throw downfield. They get the first, and then they were able to snowball that into a touchdown drive on the opening. But then Penn State comes right back, and you're like, oh man, this might be a really high-scoring affair. And then you're sitting there at halftime, and it's you're at the same spot. So I do think this was a good win for Penn State. I am really curious to see how Illinois plays out its season, because I think that is a really good team. I think they are very well coached, but I think Penn State had the answers, and truthfully, probably should have won by a little more than they did. And 21-7 is perfectly fine. I think anybody and everybody would take that. But really, Penn State in the second half seized control of that thing, and you never really felt like Illinois was threatening once Penn State got that second touchdown on the board. And I think the penalty situation is still a concern, and it's 4 games in. It's like, come on, you don't want to be making the same mistakes. I think that's going to get rectified. That it's a point of emphasis in practice. You just don't want to be giving away the free yards in a game where it can come back and haunt. And I thought it could against Illinois. It will. If you do that against Ohio State, you're not giving yourself a chance to win the game. So you have a few weeks to really get that shored up and make sure. And listen, you just can't, you got to line up and watch the football if you're on the defensive line. It's that simple. But overall, to me, you have to feel good if you're a Penn State fan right now about where this team is. And I'm not, I had a couple people, I was watching, I was kind of flipping back and forth, and Penn State's not in the same class as Alabama, Georgia. I will just say this. I'm not sure they're as far away as some of you might think. I do think that the receiving core has to continue to improve. I thought it had a very good Saturday night. No knock. But that I do think when you look at some of the athleticism and the kind of mesmerizing play there at the end of the game that Alabama made to go up and ultimately get the winning score. Yep, it doesn't feel like you have that right now, with the possible exception of Trey Wallace within that receiving core. But I will say the line play, what Penn State is doing with some significant injuries, that's secondary. The loss of KJ Winston is significant. And when you look at the guard play, and you ended up with a true freshman playing, a half plus because of the injury situation with both Sal Wormley and JB Nelson going out.
Both with eye injuries. And
which is just, that is just a bizarre thing. They got poked in the eye. Yeah, but for both to get, but for both to have to go out and not be able to return. Yeah, that's just strange. But I thought, Cooper Cousins counted himself extremely well.
Well, we'll talk about that, but I do want to say, I just feel that the front sevens of both teams, of both offense and defense for Penn State, I think they had a chip on their shoulder about how Bielema, I had talked specifically about how Bielema was going to come in here and try and play big boy football and stuff like that. He had done it 3 years ago. He embarrassed Penn State at Penn State with the 8-9 offensive linemen in the backfield at the time, and he was going to come in here and he wanted to play a physical game against us and say you can't beat us physically. I think our defensive line took that to heart, and our offensive line took that to heart, because Our offensive line played as well as they have played in many years here, in my opinion. And they play with an edge and an attitude. I mean, they were just working people, finishing blocks, being very, very aggressive. We were very aggressive with the run plays, the pass plays. I mean, you're putting Warren in the backfield out there. I mean, Illinois' heads were spinning right there. I think that we weren't ready for that 3-4 years ago when Bielema came in and did that with Illinois, did that a couple of years ago. We were ready for that defensively and offensively. I had Zane Duran on the Players Show last night.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that was as good a performance from a down tackle as I've seen since Jordan Hill versus Wisconsin in 2012.
That's saying something.
I mean, that is absolutely saying something. But I saw Zane Duran doing things out there that I haven't seen since like a John Randall type of guy. And that's exactly who I told him that last night. I said, you remind me of John Randall. And he was like, who John Randall? So he was like, I'm just like, okay, well, here's John. John Randall was this really, really short dude from the Minnesota Vikings. He played, I think, at an HBCU. He didn't play at a big-time college or anything like that, but he played about 4 inches off of the ground. And he was about 300 pounds and around like a 4'8", 40. He's just like, he looks and built everything like Zane.
Don't think he talks as much on the field. I don't think that's possible.
You know what? We were talking about this weekend and then completely changed the subject here. But Marco was in town. And we were talking about Hall of Fame and stuff like that. And, he knows he's not going to get in the Hall of Fame. Jeff knows he's not going to get in the Hall of Fame. But we were talking. Marco was telling me, he goes, think about who I had to block against. He had to play Tampa twice a year in the mid-'90s, Minnesota twice a year, and the Bears twice a year. With all of those abs and Detroit. With Luther Ellis and those guys playing. He had to block those guys 8 games a year. Half of his season was against those 4 savage defensive interior guys. So, and they held their own. So, back on subject. But I think that our offensive line played as well as they've ever played in a long time. They definitely had chip on their shoulder, and they were definitely the aggressor out there. Look at our run game. I mean, we were punishing people. And I know that I'm talking about Singleton on that chip block. Dude, you don't understand how far that is going to go to help these offensive linemen. Okay, the chip block he was lining up in the tight end wing formation, and the defensive end comes in. So you're saying the defensive end's coming in and go around Jeff Byers. But guess what? Nick Singleton's sitting right behind him, and he put his helmet underneath that defensive end and flipped him. And then turned around and caught a pass and then trucked to safety.
Yeah.
And then got up smacking his forehead and his face mask and all, like, I want more. And it was beautiful because if we're going to play that physical of a game, and he, as in your star player, one of your stars out there, is going to do that for his teammates, dude, the sky's the limit for this team. Yeah. And I'm telling you right now, every defenseman in that playing Penn State is going to see that and they're going to have their head on a swivel on Saturdays. 100% of them. It was beautiful.
Yeah. So I want to pick up on your point about the physicality, because I agree with you. Penn State, whether it was because they felt they needed to respond or whatever, but they took it to Illinois. There's no question on both sides of the ball. Penn State won the line of scrimmage over the course of the 4 quarters. But what I liked even more than that, or as much as that, is exactly what you were touching on. So Nick Singleton had, yes, a block for the ages. But if you watch Julian Fleming downfield, if you watch, and Penn State secondary coming up, and Reed obviously is just out of his mind good right now. But so even the areas, you want to control the line of scrimmage, but Penn State, there is a physical component to this team across the board. And it starts up front, no question. But I think the receiving core, the secondary, the running backs, I mean, it's through and through. Like, this is it's contagious. I think this is a tougher football team than what we've seen recently.
We are enormous on the offensive line.
Well, and so I think that physicality bodes well for Penn State's chances, especially if you get the opportunity to host a playoff game, right? Like, you get to later in the season, and that's when the physical toll, and that's why, we've talked about it a lot, Goon, but I am really interested to see in particular. I mean, UCLA is struggling right now, but Oregon, Washington, and USC, as this season goes along, do they, because the physicality it's not a one-time thing. Man, you played that team and now it's, oh man, that team beat us up. Oh, that team beat us up. And it's hard then if you're not used to that type of physicality. Football is physical, and I'm not saying that none of these guys have been hit before, anything like that. But I do think it is a different type of physicality that we're talking about in the Big Ten, and certainly with what this Penn State team is bringing.
Sure.
And I want to see the cumulative effect of that physicality when we get to November, and in particular USC and Oregon. How do they hold up for the long term, for the long haul in this season? We were going over on our morning show. I was like, look out for Rutgers here. Like, there is a path. I'm not predicting that they go undefeated, but there's a path there for that team to go undefeated. There's not a game there, and we're going through the schedule, and they're like, well, at USC. I mean, come on. I'm like, hey, like, look at when they're playing, and Rutgers game travels well, right? Like that, we're talking about the physical play of Penn State. I mean, Rutgers is physical. It's a physical defense, and it's a running game that will just pound away at you. And, yep, they'll take their opportunities where they can find them with the passing game. I think Rutgers is a really tough out for USC. I really do. I think that's going to be an intriguing game. And Rutgers is going to be up for it. And especially, I mean, if Rutgers is undefeated going into that thing, it's just going to be I give Rutgers more than a puncher's chance in that contest.
I go back to this. You're talking about the West Coast teams and coming into the Big Ten. Okay, it's a dog fight every week. Like Illinois, I don't know if they were just still beat up from that Nebraska game, because that was a very physical game a week before.
Yeah.
They had an extra day to recover from us. I mean, I know that we are fresh. We're probably the freshest team though we have a lot of injuries. We are very fresh because of the way our schedule has set up. But those Pac-12 teams, they need to be aware that this is every week. You don't get a day off. You're playing with Indiana, Purdue, or Northwestern. Those are not days off.
Yeah.
You're going to play a physical game. So that's what they're not built for. And I think that's what's going to lead to their demise. The only thing that really screws me up about Rutgers, we've talked about this. So, the West Coast team said, hey, we do not want to play at 9 a.m. home games. And I get it. So UCLA has to suck one up this weekend. They're playing Penn State. It is 9 a.m. for them on the West Coast, but the game is on the East Coast. So that's okay. But do you know when Rutgers plays USC? We talked about this. 11 p.m. On a Friday night is when Rutgers plays USC.
Yeah.
I have never heard of anything like that in my life for an East Coast team to have to go do that. Oh, man. I complain about a 7 o'clock game being a long day. They have to wait 4 more hours. I mean, that is a long time to be in a hotel all day. It'll drive you insane, drive you crazy. That's the only thing that scares me about that Rutgers. That literally is the only thing that really scares me about that Rutgers schedule, because they sure as hell can go undefeated. I mean, they dodged a bullet this year. No Oregon, no Penn State, no Michigan, no Ohio State.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the 4 top dogs in the league, and they got to play USC as their biggest opponent.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Listen, this thing will play out, obviously, over the course of the season. But and I was on board with it. The presumption even last week was that the SEC is clearly heads and shoulders above everybody else in terms of the number of top-end teams that can legitimately vie for a title. I'm not sure. We'll see how it plays out. I still think there are more top-end teams, however you want to define top-end teams, in the SEC. But I will say, right now, you got to see how Michigan, the quarterback situation there is still like that. Yeah, you're not you're not a contending team unless something drastically improves there. That being said, I think everything else is pretty much in place for Michigan to be a contender, right? To whatever degree. Again, I see a path even if they start getting much better quarterback play to a title? Not this year. I don't. But I think they can certainly be a playoff team if they can get, again, some substantial improvement from the play at quarterback. But and Ohio State is clearly a contender. Oregon and Penn State are both, I think, just very – it's going to be interesting to watch how they develop here in the coming weeks, because I think both have a chance. I would agree that as we sit here right now, I would not pencil in either as being one of the Final Four teams standing. But do I think both have a chance to be there by the end of the season if they keep improving and working on some things? And again, for me, the 21-7 score in and of itself isn't overly impressive. You're at home. It's a team that you're higher ranked than and all of that. And they were favored by whatever it was, anywhere between 17.5 and 19.5. So, but if you watch the game and the adjustments they made and the way they really did control things, and even, I understand, well, almost ifs, that's, there's what you did and what you've done and then what you will do. But as good as Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen were, and they were great, go back there. They each had at least 2 runs where they are this close. And I'm holding my fingers very closely together for those of you on the radio audience. I mean, this close to breaking open like touchdown runs on what would have been 40-yard plus runs. I mean, like one more step. So they both had great nights, and obviously I have no fault. But I am telling you, you get 1 or 2 of those plays against an Ohio State, against an Alabama, and I get almost against Illinois. I get it. I'm telling you, as this offense continues, I love Andy Kotelnicki, and I think he is doing great. I love this offense as a whole. I think they're doing great, but it's still a bit of a learning process. They're adjusting. They're figuring things out. I think this thing can continue to just get better and better, and if it does, by the time you get to that Ohio State game in a month from now, that's another month of development. Maybe they have the timing all worked out. It's like, okay, man, I just need that split second faster to the outside. I need to take this angle there with the block. And all of a sudden, those plays that are going for 8 to 12 yards now do go, even against an Ohio State or an Alabama. They go for the 40, 60-yard touchdown runs. Again, you get 1 or 2 of those in a game. Well, and you win the turnover battle. That is your game. That's the difference. Again, they got to get the penalties figured out. And Goon, I don't know what you do on the place kicking right now, but that is kickers. That's going to come back and haunt you if you don't get that figured out. And it's one of those things where, according to James Franklin and the staff, like Sahadak has been the most consistent in practice. I've talked to Mark Brennan and others, but Mark is like, it's just a different sound, man. When he hits the ball, like it is boom, like you know that it's different. So it's not a leg strength thing at all. And so I don't know if it's just something fluky that has happened with these games or if there is something in the head now in terms of the game situations. And then if that is the case, are we too far gone to change that? And if you are, listen, the extra point on that last one, I get it went through. That's great. Sadik was out. I'm telling you, watching that, I wasn't like, okay, by gosh, now they have their kicker. No worries moving forward. It is a real concern. Obviously, it's something they're going to work on, but it's also something that until and unless you start doing it in games when they're needed, And the problem is you don't want the next opportunity to be, man, we need it here against USC fourth quarter. Okay, hopefully we can do it. But that's, that could be exactly where you're at, depending on how things go against UCLA. And that's another one of those where it's like, I want to see the field goal kicking. I want to see it in game situations so you have some confidence. But my gosh, I want this Penn State offense to be able to finish off drives against UCLA. I don't want to have to be settling for field goals against this UCLA team.
Big week just to see how we react, because we're going to come off of like this super high, being on national television.
Yep.
It's a home game, it's a whiteout, it's crazy. I know we're at home again, but it's UCLA. The weather's supposed to be absolutely beautiful, by the way.
It is supposed to be.
And
very
the stripe out
nice.
thing, it's a noon game, so there's that noon energy. But I'm telling you, I got this feel from this team. And I told you this 3 years ago when we went to the Rose Bowl. I just had that feel with these guys. You could tell that they're well led. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
From a player standpoint, I'm not saying James isn't a great leader, but I'm just saying as a players, when your players are leading the team and your coach doesn't have to do or say anything, you got a guy like Dawkins out there. You got a guy like Devon. You got a guy like Duran out there. Those guys are going out there and making plays and doing everything they have to do, but they're leading the way, and they're holding people accountable and their teammates accountable. And I mean, I'm as high as I've been and a good bit Ironhead for this team. I know we were both pretty high on this team last year, but then we watched the Michigan and Ohio State game.
Yeah.
So I feel as if we even have a better chance now matching up with them. Obviously, we got to get through our West Coast boys, the USC and UCLA, in the next 2 weeks and get another bye, and then get into Wisconsin and then Ohio State. So.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that and the big picture here of college football, because I think it's interesting the way some things are starting to play out. And again, what we think we know this week, I have thought all along, and I will tell you, I'm getting more firm in my belief on this, and this isn't good news for Penn State, because I think in the minds of many Penn State fans, it is all of this is great, but it's like, well, unless you start doing it against Ohio State and or Michigan, which obviously you don't have a chance,
Correct,
at least in the regular season, to do it with Michigan this year. The problem is, if that is the bar that you're setting, I have felt from day one, Ohio State was the most talented team. If I had a ranking, if I had a ballot for the rankings, Ohio State would have been my number one before the season. I thought before the year, that's the best roster. I think Ryan Day does a great job creating the culture there. I had questions, and I still want to see, again, if they get into a tough situation, how does that thing, do they all just pull together and, yep, we're in this, which is certainly entirely possible? Or is it like, well, yeah, I'm new here and, my stats aren't what I want. Again, I think Day does a great job of getting them to buy into the culture, and certainly to this point, and they haven't really been tested, but they have looked every bit the part. I still think Ohio State is the best team in the country, and I think it's a bit of a drop-off, to be honest with you. I think it's Ohio State, and then, maybe it is Texas, maybe it is Alabama, maybe it'll end up being Georgia by the end of the season here. But I want to see – we'll see how all of that plays out. I think Penn State is better positioned to make a run this year. It's like picking the wrong year to try to make that run, because again, you might be up against an historically great team here in Ohio State. We'll talk about it when we come back. You are listening to the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. We appreciate you doing so here on Sports Radio 98.7 The Fall.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorrento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing of State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen Baker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen Baker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen Baker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
Get up and get going. With the Happy Valleys, 98.7 The Fox, the Goon and Ironhead.
Couple of things, and then we'll certainly get back to college football talk. First of all, Center County Red Zone rules your way here. Week 7 already of the high school football season. We're hitting the stretch run. It is bonkers to me.
And they usually go 10 games, right?
Absolutely crazy. Yes,
October
10 games
1st.
with regular season. No,
it's
yeah,
1st.
Yep, it
Wow.
is. It's just madness.
Holy crap.
But we'll have the complete schedule for you Friday night from 7 to 10. State College will be home with Cedar Cliff. Belfont is home against Phillipsburg Osceola for the intra-county battle. It'll be Bald Eagle area traveling to Clearfield. And Penns Valley is on the road as well. Rams will look for their first win of the season. And again, we'll have complete coverage here starting at 7 o'clock on Friday night as we bounce from game to game here in Center County.
I had one of your guys at the tailgate Saturday. He was talking to me in the corner of my ear, and I'm cooking, I'm moving, I'm running this and that. And I couldn't even tell you what he looked like. And he was like, I'm one of Ironhead's guys. I go out, I do the center kind of, and I was like, telling him how much I love the idea.
Yeah.
And it's just a fantastic idea for just people that it's awesome for local sports.
Yeah, it's so I will say we got really lucky with our correspondence. We have just a great group of personalities.
They're interested in it.
Yeah, and they enjoy it, which makes it, I think, enjoyable for the listener. And so we are very, very fortunate. And yeah, that thing has gone extremely well, and we're again very appreciative of everybody for listening and for all of the folks who put in the work to make that thing happen here on Friday nights.
So I just got to get it all out of the way. And one last comment of the weekend and tailgate.
Yep.
How many people do you think were at the tailgate?
Yours?
Yes.
This weekend, I mean, hundreds.
Yep.
I mean, it had to be hundreds.
It was a block party.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody turned the corner on Bryce Jordan's.
I can't even imagine.
Somebody was downtown, and they came up, and they crested the hill at Bryce Jordan's Center, and they were calling me. And they're like, hey, man, where are you? I was like, in the Letterman's lot, and looking for you. Then the guy was like, oh, I see it. I see it. And he goes, it looks like the movie Easy Money when there was like everybody was in this little constricted area. But I'm telling you, man, I at one point, we probably had 150 all at one point. And throughout the day, somebody said between 200 and 300 that we were coming in and through. And we're talking our top. I mean, all guys that were there, the only guy who was not from our offense was John Whitman and Bobby Ingram. Was the only one of the starters from offense not there.
Huh.
Okay, so
that's amazing.
We had Mazik, Noble, Stewart from the D line, Gelsheiser. No Yvonne Cody, no Willie Smith. But Kimani Herring was there, Stephen, Tony Pittman, and a lot of other guys. We had a group of guys. Man. And I'm glad I did what we did with the tailgate party and stuff like that, because there's a place for everybody to just go. And I just texted Kerry before the show, and I said, hey, I need some feedback. Did your guys have a good time? And they were like, dude, they had an absolute blast. So, just
I have no doubt
that Penn State way around, man. I mean,
no, that's awesome, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah, buddy. But I'm going to tell you right now, Jeff.
Yeah.
We do that. Me and Landon do that Sunday review show at the student bookstore.
Yep.
That was a tough one to get up for.
But that I can understand.
So I got a phone call post game Saturday night. Said, hey, where are we going? I want to meet you for a few drinks. And I'm like, I'm home. I'm working on 3 hours of sleep. I said, I was out in the parking lot for 16 hours. I said, I've had enough. I'm good. I'm fine. I wasn't drunk. I wasn't, I was just exhausted.
Yeah.
So I was just like, can't really do it. So did the Sunday show, got done there, went down to Campus Steaks, had a couple, had a cheesesteak and stuff like that. Bought my Tennessee guys down there. A couple Tennessee guys. There's a lot of Tennessee guys. Now that I think about it, Kerry and his crew, that was not even the same crew.
Right.
The other Tennessee crew were my buddies, J-Bo and Nate. They went out. We went down to Campus Steaks and had some cheesesteaks Sunday. And then we started drinking some beers on Sunday watching football. And I kept on drinking, and these guys were like, man, you weren't hurting from yesterday. I said, I couldn't relax yesterday. I couldn't. I really couldn't. I was hostess with the mostest, so I really couldn't.
I
just sit back, relax, and enjoy myself. And that's what I ended up doing Sunday.
No, that's good.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy myself watching football. Thank God I had the red zone, so I didn't have to watch the Eagles.
Oh, boy.
And the one time I root for the damn Steelers.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of felt that one was coming. You're going on the road. I think Indianapolis had its backs against the wall a little bit. They wanted to come out and make a bit of a statement. If not for the high snap, it would have been fun to see. I'm not sitting here guaranteeing you that the Steelers come down and win that thing. But if you'd like to see, as a Steelers fan, you'd like to see how that drive would have played out without, the
your third lineman is out for the season.
Yeah,
it's when stuff catches up to you.
Yes, and it's not exactly like that was a strong strong point of the team to begin with.
They weren't super depth there.
And so, yes, that is a huge concern. right now moving forward.
So I have to ask, has Flacco historically had great success versus the Steelers when he was with the Ravens?
Yeah, I mean,
no, yes, no. That's very up and down. So it wasn't
he's had good. I mean, I wouldn't say he hasn't been like a Steelers killer, but he's.
I mean, he did. He came in the other day.
He's had his games for sure.
Yeah, one the other day. Against, coming in like that.
No question.
Just getting the job done. That's a perfect backup quarterback.
And it is, yes, and it is tough when you have an experienced quarterback like that, and you are preparing for a different style of quarterback, which the Steelers were. I don't know that that's
good point.
as easy of an adjustment as I mean. You've been working all week on Richardson, and then you get a guy.
Last night, Will Levis gets hurt, and they bring Mason Rudolph.
Yeah,
two completely
how
different
about that, Rudolph? Yeah,
and then Tennessee was bang, 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 bang.
Yeah, yep. So
that's a good point. You're ready for your game planning versus a running quarterback who the RPO type of thing, and then you have a guy who's a classic drop back.
Yeah,
that's a great point, Jeffrey.
A couple of other things. Well, I'll take a couple of other things. Dikembe Mutombo passing away from brain cancer at just 58, and kind of interesting how your perspective on age and but that is way too young. And
three of them.
A lot of great memories. He was just a special person. Obviously, very memorable basketball player. Terrific at the block shots and
defensive player of the year.
And had his run with the 76ers among many other teams throughout his NBA career.
I truly think he was the first I think that who was the one who said it? Somebody in the NBA said he was truly the first international NBA star. Came from a different came from the Congo, was a star in there and a star around the world, and he did a lot of stuff internationally. He was really one of the first guys to really, have that effect. I mean, a guy like Roberto Clemente was in the Caribbean and the Puerto Rico and that area, but we go over into the Congo with Dikembe and his personality too.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, it was really, really.
Yeah,
it was amazing. I didn't even know was it a known sickness? Because it came out of nowhere to me.
I honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
I wasn't aware of it, but the fact that I wasn't aware of it doesn't mean doggone thing.
I mean, they go in three. So we had Christopherson on Sunday night.
Yeah.
That was, his stories or anything? Chris Christopherson at all?
In terms of
absolutely amazing, his life story. He was a Navy brat who went in the military in the Army.
Yeah.
He became an Army Ranger and a paratrooper, and he was a helicopter pilot, but he was a Ranger, airborne, taught at West Point as an instructor, and he was a Rhodes Scholar. He was significantly a very, very intelligent man, and then just gave it all up because he wanted to be a country music songwriter and stuff like that. Family disowned him. The military family disowned him. And he just went down to Nashville and in the Texas area and did the whole music thing. And that's what he wanted to do. And partook in some other crazy stuff that usually military guys don't do. The drugs and the alcohol and stuff like that. But it's just an amazing story. The Rhodes Scholar thing alone, I had my buddy look it up, and I was like, yeah, there's 34 people a year from this country, who get that award. And that guy was that smart to get that. It's amazing.
That is.
And then the songs he was writing. So we had a little load on Sunday. So we had the Christopherson playing the Alexa. He was a much better writer than a performer, in my opinion.
I would not disagree with that.
He wrote Bobby McGee, which obviously is the big song that he had written. But he does his version of it's okay, but Janice owned that. She owned that song. So and then the Hit King, Pete. That's our three. The old adage, they go in threes. So
so Pete Rose passing away at the age of 83. It's interesting. So one of the things that there's a lot of discussion now. Should Pete Rose go? I mean, there's been discussion. I was kind of joking on the morning show this morning. Let's talk. Airing 8 to 10 Monday through Friday on Sports Radio 98.7 The Fox. But we're talking about 4 decades. if you were struggling as a sports talk show host with topics, it's like, oh man, it's the middle of the summer. I can't. Oh, Pete Rose, should he go into the Hall of Fame? That'll get the phone lines, and it would. It would get. Didn't matter where in the U.S. you were.
Yep.
Man, you threw that topic out there, and people would weigh in. And for a long time, I'm like, well, listen, it is so clearly expressed what the rules are.
Yes.
And it's not like, oh, well, how was I supposed to know that you were going to try to keep me out of the game? I mean, it is hammered home in baseball, or at least always had been. I don't know if it still is to the degree, but I would assume it is. But one of the things that is interesting when to me is when you look at as time goes by, things that we think are definitives become less definitive later in time. Well, marijuana smoking is illegal. Well, will be all of and I truly, as a kid,
yep.
And even into college, I'm like, yeah, it might be legalized someday, not in our lifetime. Well, once it started, I mean, at some point here within the next year or two, it is going to be legalized, period. I strongly believe. Well, that would have been unfathomable. It was completely unthinkable, like in the 1980s. The fact that we have betting lines all over the place. You turn on the TV.
Watch
you're
the
getting
game right now.
We have a fantasy focus here. We have odds over there. We have again. There was a time when that is something that there's no way. I mean, it was controversial when Jimmy the Greek came on CBS, and he's like, "Well, here are the odds." Wait, they're actually talking about that.
The Giants
well, now
today, you know what that means? That means bet the Giants because he thinks they're going to cover.
So. Yeah, all of this stuff
Reggie
changes.
Bush losing his Heisman for accepting benefits.
Yep, and now it's
now.
like, well, that's absurd. Curtis Enos and the whole suit thing. Well,
yes.
that seems pretty darn silly now, in this day and age. So all of that. Although I do want to pick up on that because I got into an interesting discussion yesterday with somebody. We were just watching, watching Penn State wrestling practice, and we got into a discussion on with another person that was just watching it with me on the future of Olympic sports and how this thing is going to evolve and what is or isn't sustainable in terms of the big picture stuff here with college athletics. Might get into that a little bit later, but. So Pete Rose at the time, and again, for years, I was one of those saying, listen, like it wasn't a secret. You knew that you weren't allowed to do this, and you did it, and you knew what the consequences were. So yeah, the consequences need to be followed.
And you signed a decree saying you did admit to doing it. Yes, and you said,
yes.
I will not.
And then you kept denying that you did it, which is as always, the cover-up is worse than the crime.
Yeah.
Crime was pretty bad here by baseball standards, not by societal standards, certainly now. But so a couple of things. One is it was it's a lifetime ban. Well, the life is over. Pete Rose is no longer with us. So I do think that's a legitimate. I don't know what the wording actually is, and I was trying to find it earlier today, and then I got we were having some technical issues.
Even after death, does it mean lifetime?
Well, what I want to know is what the actual wording is in the with baseball. Like if you bet on baseball, because I went back and there were a couple of stories at the time that said it is a permanent ban from the Baseball Hall of Fame, but most of the stories call it a lifetime ban. And I don't know if, some people think we're just parsing words there, but those are two different things. Permanent would be permanent in theory forever. Although again, a lot of things that we think are going to be in place forever, or this is just, it's not always. I mean, it's nothing is permanent because eventually all of us are going to pass, and there's going to be, we don't even know what is going to be coming down the road. So permanent is kind of a funny term. Well, so this is
so all the Hall of Fames are different. So the Hall of Fame in the Baseball Hall of Fame is pretty much just sports writers, right?
Baseball writers. Yeah,
baseball writers are control of it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In terms of who goes in and not.
So the writers.
So you can go down a bunch of different pathways here, and I think there's legitimate arguments to be made. I really do on from a bunch of different angles with this. One side would be, do you want to really, like, if you examine, and again, where I always came down for years, decades probably, was, listen, this was such a well-known rule in baseball, and it was such a dumb thing for Pete Rose to have done. And you knew, or should have known, you're going to get caught. And again, I mean, he was in the game for how long? How many times did he walk by the wording? And like, it was just so unbelievably stupid. So there is that component, and yep, this is the penalty for it. And it's, you knew that going in if you're Pete Rose or anybody playing Major League Baseball. So there is that side of it. I think another interesting angle to take is, okay, we are all human. We all make mistakes, the different levels of mistakes, all of that, that's fine. The idea that the moral compass, and again, I don't necessarily come down here because this particular role in baseball is so well established and was so well known and distributed. There wasn't anybody who didn't know, played Major League Baseball. Man, you do this, you bet on baseball, you're out. If you're caught, you are out. Yes,
which leads me to believe, did Bart Giamatti know something before and like pulled Pete aside, like, hey, we know what the hell you're doing. We respect you enough to not out you like this, but then Pete was such an arrogant person, that he just keep doing it.
Now, but you also, if you look at the moral character of some of the writers, not casting aspersions, not saying all of them, but we have had some writers who have gotten themselves in hot water for certainly much worse things than betting on a baseball game. So there are people that's like, really, we're going to allow these people to be the moral arbiters? Well, again, it was such a well-established rule. The question is, at this point, is, okay, I need to find out what the exact wording is, if it is a permanent ban or if it actually does say lifetime ban. Either way, even if it is permanent, again, nothing is actually permanent. You can always go in and change. The question is, for me, at this point, okay, Pete Rose is no longer with us. He never got the joy or the glory while he was alive of having the honor bestowed upon him. There is no way you can tell, the old measure of whether somebody belongs in the Hall of Fame. Can you tell the story of that sport without that person? Well, you can't. With baseball and Pete Rose. And you can't do it without Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, and separate discussion there. But
those guys affected games. I don't think Pete affected games by gambling on them.
We don't know.
You're exactly right.
We don't know.
Yeah, you're right. I mean,
we don't know in either case, because while certainly not everybody in the steroid era was using steroids, we don't really have a firm percentage. And I've seen, there are people out there that say that were in the game. They're like, it was like 70-75% of the players who were using it.
I'm sorry.
And I've seen others, it's like, well, no, I mean, it was prevalent, but it was like 20-25%.
No.
So whatever it was, I mean, it's a substantial amount. Is it likely that there are people in the Hall of Fame that use steroids and never got caught? Yeah, almost guaranteed. And I don't know who that would be.
They were all on amphetamines. They were all rocking the amphetamines for decades.
Well, and then
they're performance enhancers.
And you get into the Gaylord Perry and all of the different ways that you can either cheat or at least
manipulate.
Yeah, however you want to put it. But it was cheating. And so, but again, at the end of the day, like whether it was performance enhancing or not, I mean, Barry Bonds, the impact he and Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa had on the game is not disputable. Whether or not they would have if not for the substance use, that is debatable, but they did have the impact. Pete Rose certainly, again, you can't tell the story of baseball in the 70s and 80s
Big Red Machine,
and not mention Pete Rose. So at the end of the day, to me, I don't see now where the harm is. And again, you can put whatever caveats you want to on. Yep, this is Pete Rose. He was the all-time hits leader, but he disgraced the game. However you want to term it, but on the field as a player, what he did, and again, I grew up as a Pirates fan, and I was actually shocked. I didn't know he was 83 years old. So that means I didn't really start watching him because, again, he was 28 when I was born. And in my mind, like, I kind of saw his whole career. Well, I did. I couldn't have, right? I saw maybe 10 years. I saw like 10 years of his career that I really got to see and remember. As a kid, but he was such a fixture and such the epitome of a competitor, a hard-nosed man. I'm going to give it everything I got. That was one guy, I complain probably too much about. It's like run out every ground ball. And very rarely do you see a player who truly hits the ball, grounder to second base and is sprinting, all out sprinting to first base. Like, it does not happen often anymore. You go back and watch Pete Rose, every time he hit the ball, that dude was flying to first base until the out was made. He never took for granted that there was going to be an out. And
everybody's father told their kid that. Watch him play the game.
Yeah,
that's how you play the game.
The reason he was called Charlie Hustle is because that is what he did all of the time on the baseball field, was hustle and give you maximum effort. And so to me, we ought to be able to distinguish now that he has passed. Again, he's not receiving the recognition.
They were never going to put him
personally.
In his lifetime.
Yep, and that's fine.
Because of his arrogance, I think.
But at this point now, I'm not sure what the harm is in putting him in.
I think if they put him in instantly, as in like this year, within the first year that he could be put in, I think it would be very, very petty of the sports writers, which is exactly what I think they're going to do.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of think they won't put him in
for a while, or
no. I don't think he'll go.
When I talk about his arrogance, I talk about when he had the Hall of Fame every year. He would go to Cooperstown every year and hold his autograph sessions. Yeah, and he was signing autographs.
And they were wildly popular.
I bet on baseball.
Yeah,
sorry, I bet on baseball. And then if they ever put him in the Hall of Fame, his autographs would have quadrupled, because then he could put HOF next to his name, and it's that much more money. I go back to this 2 years ago. The Phillies had invited him back for the 80 reunion. There was a real issue that people were like, I don't know, we should bring him back or not. And people were like, you just listen, he's going to do something or say something's really bad. And at one point, they were putting him in the Hall of Fame, and then it came out that he was having an affair with a 16-year-old girl when he was in Cincinnati, and then he said he didn't know she was a younger girl, but then people were like, yes, you did. There's no way you didn't know she was underage. So then the Phillies said, you're not going in the Phillies Hall of Fame, or at least we're not going to honor you that game. So then the 80 World Series team came back a few years ago, and And, they had him there, and that was a big thing, having him there. And he had his autograph sessions and this and that. And then they had to end their broadcast for an inning early because of how he was talking in the box. That he was just talking locker room language, and it's like he was on the radio, and people were like, he just doesn't get it. He's just that arrogant.
Yeah,
he is that arrogant that he's better than that or better,
No,
but no better person as a young kid to watch, and for your somebody's
no better player
to I'm sorry, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
No better player to watch and then mold your game after as a young man than watching Pete Rose play the
for sure. Yeah. All right, we're going to take a break here.
This is my father and his friends were monster baseball fans.
Yeah.
So growing up back in the day, they would just sit in the backyard. It was them talking. Who would you start a baseball team if you had your first pick? The first pick of any baseball player in the history of the game, who would you start your team with? And the final two answers were always Henry Aaron or Pete Rose.
None of them took Shohei Ohtani.
You know what? He made it in fourth. Hideki Matsui was out there too. So,
yes,
but I always thought because you want Henry Aaron, he hit for average. He was everything.
Yeah.
Willie Mays did all that. But Pete Rose, they said Pete Rose changed the locker room. He ran the locker room. He did all of that little stuff. So that was always a good.
Certainly could do a lot worse in that regard. All right, we're going to take a break here. We are coming back with more from Quaker Steak and Lube. It is the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorrento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing of State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen O'Habaker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen O'Habaker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen O'Habaker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
WFXS, once again.
Your sports radio. Broadcasting live, loud and proud from Central PA's Sports Authority. WFXS America. 98.7 The Fox State College. The Goon and Ironhead.
We welcome you back in here on a Tuesday afternoon. Damp and dreary. And repeat. Damp and dreary. And repeat. Actually, it's later in the week. It is going to clear up. And yeah, Saturday is actually looking like a very nice day. Temperatures right now looking like they'll be in the 60s and sunny for the UCLA game. Again, a noon kickoff this Saturday against the Bruins.
You know any UCLA fans? I don't think I do.
I don't think I do either. I'm trying to.
I know fans of every other school, I think. I really don't know any people who are like, oh, I'm a huge, because I know people who are big USC fans, big Oregon fans, big Washington fans. I just don't know anybody from UCLA.
Yeah, I don't think I do.
Right?
Yeah. You know, it'll be interesting. As you said, I do think this is, well, let me start here because this was an interesting, Scott Giese, my morning show co-host, threw out, I think it was an ESPN story, but where they were breaking down the remaining schedules for everybody. And so for Penn State, the toughest remaining games, they had, of course, Ohio State, the toughest, then USC. Then who would you say of the other teams? Because I'll tell you who I threw out here in a minute. I'm curious to see what you pick, and then I'll give you I think ESPN is inaccurate, and for a couple of reasons, but I'll get into that. But of the remaining games, and truthfully, none of them to me are really very worrisome. Like if Penn State loses any of the other games, to me, it is going to be a pretty dramatic upset and extremely disappointing.
And we got USC.
Yep, but then after those two,
I would say preseason Wisconsin and even preseason Maryland.
Yeah, this was I think this came out after Saturday's game.
Probably Purdue.
See, I think Purdue's
who did they say?
Awful. So they said Minnesota. And that's not completely unreasonable. Again, truthfully, none of the. So if you don't know the remaining games, that they're home with UCLA. UCLA is 1-3 right now. Their lone win was a field goal victory over Hawaii. So I mean, this is not a good UCLA team. And because I hope, and because Penn State, I do worry a little bit, even with the leadership and all that. And I agree. I think there's good leadership. I just think it's inevitable. You're going to come out a little flat against UCLA. I just don't know how you don't. You're coming off a big win. This is a game that, it's not Kent State bad, but it's pretty darn not impressive in terms of the opponent. And noon kickoff, I mean, the energy in that stadium is not going to be what it was Saturday night. Even if the fans try to bring it, you can't bring it at noon the way you bring it at 7:30. It's just not.
I'll try.
So, so I just don't. Now, that being said, I think Penn State's in fine shape, and they'll figure it out over the course of 4 quarters against UCLA. Again, Ohio State and USC are off the table. Those are clearly nobody would dispute those are the two biggest games.
Wisconsin,
well, honestly though, you're at Wisconsin then after the USC game, but you have a week off, which actually could be maybe more worrisome given Penn State's track record with the bye weeks. But again, this is a Wisconsin team that I will say played for a half much better against USC than I ever would have anticipated, and then USC seemed to figure it out in the second half and pulled away for a comfortable win. It's at Camp Randall. that is a tough place to play. I mean,
Game.
like Wisconsin is not unreasonable to me as, that's the next toughest remaining game. Then again, you have Ohio State, and then you're at Purdue. Purdue is off. I think Purdue is going to be right there with UCLA at the bottom of the Big Ten standings at the end of the year. And here's the thing with Minnesota, is that I think Minnesota is none of these teams are what I would call good. Oh, and Washington, you have in there before the Purdue and Washington's who I picked. So I was saving Washington, but now I'm going back through in my mind. So Washington's who I had as I actually think they are. I think they're the best team anyway after Ohio State and USC remaining on the Penn State schedule right now. But the thing is, that's going to be it's the whiteout game, and it's a cross-country trip, and I just think the matchup there so heavily favors Penn State that I just, because either Penn State is going to be coming off a loss to Ohio State and will be wanting to prove that, nope, we're still a playoff contender, or they're going to be coming off a victory against Ohio State, and you're going to have a team that is more confident than any other team in the country. And again, I like the matchup there. But I think, so that was my answer, is I think Washington's actually the best of the remaining opponents. But again, I don't think any of these opponents are or should be any threat to Penn State. And then you're at Purdue, at Minnesota, and then home with Maryland. And again, Maryland has just the rails have already to some degree come off. They just do not look like a competitive with the top half of the Big Ten this season. And again, that's a home game. So to me, I mean, because it's at Wisconsin and at Minnesota, the reason that Minnesota's who they picked, and I don't think it's completely unreasonable at the moment, it's just that Minnesota is going to accumulate losses between now and then. And so it is not going to be a confident Minnesota team, I don't believe. I mean, again, we'll see how it plays out. But I think by the time Penn State gets to them, that's probably going to be a 5-loss program. And Penn State, at worst, I think will be a 2-loss team coming in. And if Penn State has those 2 losses, that'll be a desperate Penn State team that is going to be trying to, make sure it's still clinging to its playoff hopes. But even at 1 loss, they're going to think that's a game that they have to get where they want to be and maybe host a playoff game, and all that's going to come into play. So to me, there's just not going to be much there for Minnesota to play for. There's going to be a ton for Penn State. Now, maybe Minnesota will be playing for its bowl eligibility. Okay. I just can't see that game this year being a matchup. But truthfully, once you get, other than USC and Ohio State, if any of those teams give Penn State a real bad, I'm not saying any of them couldn't step up for a half and, hey, this is a tough game, tougher than expected. But, I mean, it would be borderline shocking if any of the teams other than USC or Ohio State remaining on that schedule, even have a chance late in the fourth quarter.
I agree.
So, for whatever it's worth, that's just interesting
we put
kick
the
around.
season in the 3 quadrants. It's the 4 games. So the 12 games we're in those last 4 games. We get Maryland, Minnesota, Purdue,
Washington.
And Washington.
Yeah.
So that's the end of the 4. That's what you got to ride those home, but you got to get through the other 4.
And again, the home away thing plays into it. If at Purdue and at Minnesota
is going to be
brutal.
Yeah, this is the nature of how they are. I mean, but are we going to be ready to play? You said it. You hit the nail on the head, and that is okay. That's coming off of a bye week.
Yeah.
If we beat USC, we're on a high, and then we go right into a lull. We go into a bye week, and then we come back out 2 weeks later and play. And then it's not.
And you're going to have the Ohio State game. You're going to have to worry about the possibility of looking ahead to that. I mean, that's so. Yeah, I guess I could buy Wisconsin.
I'm just saying Wisconsin in general is a tough place to play.
Yeah,
the Saturday night aspect to it. It could be scary.
They are not
getting after bye weeks.
Yeah, they are not getting the line play, though, that you're accustomed to from Wisconsin. And because of what Penn State is doing right now on both lines, again, I could see it being similar to what USC experienced, where, this is a tighter game than you expected at halftime. But I think much like USC, I have a tough time imagining the scenario where Penn State doesn't ultimately pull away and win. At least double digits.
I think we still see Wisconsin as the barrier. Brett Bielema, big, heavy, ground and pound offense and stuff like that. Wisconsin hasn't done that in a few years.
Yeah, this year's team though is really
pretty bad recently with their line play, and that's their MO. So yeah.
Well, so this is the other thing. So now we're at a point, of course, Kentucky gets the win over Ole Miss. They lost by just the point to Georgia. So now are we at a point where we think Kentucky, when it plays its best, is right there with the big boys? Or, are Ole Miss and Georgia maybe both a little overrated? Again, I don't think anybody would argue that either of them are not really good football teams. But, and this is the other thing that I think is worth discussing, because again, I have a friend who's like, well, Penn State is good, but give me a break. I watched Alabama, Georgia, and I think part of that is the perception you go in. You believe you're watching elite football, and I'm not saying you weren't. That Alabama-Georgia game was a fun watch, and I think they are elite. But until you see two teams actually matched up against one another, and again, at the moment, I'm still of the belief, Goon, and I think Ohio State, I would take Ohio State over Alabama, Texas, whoever else is out there.
Everybody's just presuming that Texas is going to run through the SEC. I say the same thing that I'm saying about the 4 West Coast teams in the Big Ten. Dude, you're not in the Big 12 no more. You got to do it every week in the SEC.
Yeah.
They're going to get clipped by somebody they should not be getting clipped by.
I kind of have that same feeling.
Right.
I'm kind of with
There's
you.
no way Texas goes into the SEC and runs it the first year. No way. Texas is not known for that toughness. Sorry if you boys are from Texas. I apologize, but yeah, I mean, I just don't think Texas has that in them to run the SEC, run the whole season.
Well, it is different. Much like Oregon and USC. I'll just be curious. All credit to them if they do.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Run it, but I do think it's different.
World, man.
Yep, when you get the type of physicality and athleticism. And again, you look at the SEC right now. That's
Kentucky
a good question.
Probably would have been a walkthrough. They probably had that marked up as a win.
We'll dig up their schedule here before the next break. Couple of things, other things I just wanted to touch on real quickly. Do you remember? I'm sure there. Well, I'm not sure. I'm wondering whether there's been another scene where, like that you had yesterday with the Mets and the Braves, where you had two teams popping champagne corks on the same field on the same day.
This is crazy that you say that, because it almost happened in Milwaukee with Philadelphia. And like 2 weeks ago when the Phillies clinched.
Yeah.
Milwaukee would have clinched that night too, with somebody lost and the Phillies had won the game.
Yeah, yeah.
And they would have, and it didn't happen. And I remember asking somebody there, I don't think I've ever seen two teams celebrate, and let alone they actually combined the celebration yesterday.
Yeah.
It was
cool, wild. Man. It was. It was
those neat. Two teams, they're not fans of each other.
But to go,
it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah. But to go from that, so now you're celebrating, you have the champagne flowing, and now the very next day, well, I mean, and they're traveling and and then the Braves are having to go all the way out to San Diego. Like, that is,
well, what would you have
it's going to be interesting to see how these games play out today.
The Mets really had the decision to make. Who do we want to play, in my opinion?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that they were like, and then somebody was like, they want to play San Diego. I'm like, why would they want to play? They want to go to Milwaukee. You don't have that 5-hour travel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you can go from Atlanta to Milwaukee in an hour and a half, be there and this and that. Milwaukee, you go out to San Diego, play 2 games, and then fly all the way home. I wouldn't want to go to a West Coast trip.
Oh,
I mean, I know San Diego's playing. Well, I don't think it's anything to do with who they wanted to play or didn't play. I was just thinking pure.
Although I will say I'd rather play the Brewers than the Padres right now.
Right?
Not that either's. Again, I think this whole postseason.
What's it come down to?
Well, as always, it's going to come down to pitching and or who gets. I will say that it'll be a fascinating postseason. I think I'll be surprised and watch them both win, but I'll be surprised if either the Mets or the Braves pull out the victory here in Game 1. Now, I won't be shocked if either or both win.
No one wins the game hungover. That's the thing.
But
nobody wins the day after a hangover.
It's going to be awfully.
I wonder what that winning percentage is of the day after clinching a playoff or a series.
Yeah.
What is the actual?
Well,
next
you don't
day?
usually play the very next day, though. This is such a. That was such a mishandled situation with
I don't think they had
the Braves.
What do you think?
So
what could they have done?
I think they're going to be.
It was the Hurricane.
I think
so
it's going to be a
they
mess.
put them in a real bad predicament. Is what it did.
It should
have a doubleheader on Monday. But what else could they have done?
Gotten it scheduled ahead of time, which would have been a much better.
It was the Hurricane games.
You wanted to get the. You did not want to play a doubleheader the day before the playoffs.
Not. But this is Thursday and Friday's games, or Wednesday, Thursday's game from the Hurricane last week.
Right.
This wasn't from earlier in the year.
That's what I'm saying.
Well,
you needed to play them Thursday. Get them done.
Where?
So that in Atlanta, or if you need to move it to. No, it wasn't yet. That was the thing.
It was the fear I thought of the Hurricane.
Yeah, it was completely mishandled by both Major League Baseball
they should have played them in New York.
The Braves.
Maybe the Braves said we didn't want to.
Yeah.
But what they did, as soon as I heard that last week, I called on my Mets fans. I said, you guys got screwed. Royally screwed, in my opinion. Like, you played a doubleheader yesterday, and now they're going to be out on the West Coast, and one is going to be in Milwaukee, having to play a playoff game this evening. That's asking a lot.
It's asking a whole lot.
Well, you know what? Maybe it builds the team, the character, and they get a little.
We'll see. Maybe they both end up winning, and we talk about the momentum that they're riding into it.
As a Phillies fan, I'm like, the Mets are definitely coming in hot, like the Phillies have the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah,
and then I'm honest to God, I'm of the ilk. I would rather not have the 3 or 4 day bye because that's a big thing. I know the season's over and you want to stay hot and stuff like that, but you don't want to ruin a routine.
Yeah.
And the All-Star break, and I don't know how the Phillies come back after the All-Star break, and then they come back and your timing is off a little bit. I don't know. It just felt like the Phillies having to play in the wild card the last couple of years really helped them because it built a lot of momentum where they're sitting around right now for the next 3 days awaiting their next opponent. I don't know. It could hurt them having a little setback.
Yeah. We'll take a break here. We are coming back with more. It's the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. We are at Quaker Steak and Lube. You can come on down and get ready for the all-you-can-eat wing buffet that gets underway at 4 o'clock right as we go off the air here. Also a great place to come on down and watch these Major League Baseball playoffs. Watch all of the football action throughout the course of the weekend, Thursday night, Friday, and, of course, all of the college football on Saturday and NFL action on Sunday, available here on the many TVs located throughout Quaker Steak and Lube. Of course, great food, great beverages, and as good a service as you are going to find anywhere. We're coming right back with more on our Tuesday edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show after this.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food. Get to Quaker Steak Lube.
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing and State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen Baker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen Baker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen Baker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
Get up and get going. 98.7 The Fox, the Goon and Ironhead.
And we are back here at the Lube, Quaker Steak and Lube, on this Tuesday afternoon, and a final segment here on the show today. Again, Penn State UCLA will be a noon kickoff on Saturday, and then the Nittany Lions' next game at USC a week from Saturday is set for a 3:30 Eastern Time kickoff, and unquestionably one of the two biggest tests remaining in that game at USC for the Nittany Lions here in the regular season in 2024.
I asked you, have you ever been in the Coliseum?
I have not been to the Coliseum. No.
No, we played out there my true freshman year, but I was redshirting, so I didn't travel.
Yeah.
The West Coast is a tough trip. And that's why it's always, I go back to, I can't believe that those teams joined the Big Ten with all the travel. It's not an easy, you're in a plane for 5 hours a day or two before a game. That's not exactly conducive towards helping you guys stretch and get relaxed. And as a player, being on a plane for 5 hours ain't exactly a good thing. Stretching wise, you're going to get stiff. You're going to get, if you got like my size, it's even worse. So it'll be interesting to see how we do out there. I don't want to go think past UCLA this week, but
I think we can afford to look past UCLA.
28 point. That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether they'll cover or not, but they certainly should win the game. Again, this is a UCLA team that's lost 3 straight, and I think it's just kind of struggling to figure out exactly who they are, what they can do, where from a coaching perspective, what it is they want to try to do moving forward, meaning as a program, what are the improvements, what are the areas that they need to focus on. I just think it's very much a rebuilding process right now, and they're in the early stages of it with UCLA, and this is not a place that you want to be coming. Again, Penn State may get off to a bit of a slower start. I'm kind of anticipating that with this game on Saturday. I'm sure they'll be trying to address that. It'll be 28-0 before you even get settled into your seat.
That's about right.
Well, I do think it'll be a point of emphasis, right? I mean, I do think that the coaches, but I think field goal kicking and penalties have been a point of emphasis the last few weeks too, and so it could be a point of emphasis and still not show in terms of results during the game. But regardless, I really like a lot of the way things are coming together for this team. Just going through some of the individual performances. Kobe King, I thought Goon just took another step and was brutal on Saturday night. He had a couple of just big time hits, and just seems to be both he and Rojas just seem to have the instincts now that comes from just playing and kind of being able to anticipate. But I thought both of those guys really showed up big. Again, Abdul Carter, save for the penalties, which just drive you nuts, really seems to be comfortable in his multifaceted role where they're dropping him into linebacker from time to time. That is, I think getting more comfortable and a better understanding of how to play and certainly rush the passer from that defensive end spot. But I think you're starting to see, even with Winston out, some of the versatility that this defense brings with, Reed being able to come up and do some different things and disrupt offenses with his presence. Denai Dennis Sutton continues to play at a very high level. As you said, Zane Durant was just disruptive as could be.
7 sacks this weekend, 13 tackles for loss.
Yeah.
That's in one game. That's like, wow.
Yeah, I think this. I think the defense is still figuring some things out. I don't think it's playing as well as it will at some point. But again, holding Illinois to 7 points is a pretty good indication that these guys are coming right along.
First and goal at the 2-yard line.
Yeah.
First and goal to 2. And we'll talk about shoot yourself in the foot. They did
that. Yes.
Well, they did it themselves, but then we actually made plays and this and that, and then they missed the field goal.
Well, and the crowd,
awesome.
I will say, there's no question.
Jeff, I was on the field first half.
Yep.
We're down there. There was no friggin' air. It was so humid on that field.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. And my friends were in the crowd, and they were like, oh, man, it was hot. At that time of night, it was just like the humidity.
Yeah, it was a heavy air.
Unbelievable.
No doubt about that.
And then down on the field where we were was ridiculously – I mean, I was just sitting there standing, and I was sweating, and I was like, I don't know if you watched the show last night, but I have to tell you a story. So I did walk up from my spot to our tailgate area. From our tailgate area into the stadium, it's about halfway around the stadium. Get in there and get all in the field because you got to go into the stadium this way, then walk around half of it, then go out in the field.
Yeah,
figure this lets you in that way, but they don't. So walked a long bit there, got on the field. There's no seats on the sideline.
Right.
And that's like one of the complaints of a lot of guys. My back was already locked up, so they had one of the emergency carts there, and I was like, can I just lean up against this? So I leaned up against that and then did everything, watched the first half, watched the first quarter. Then they introduced us, and then we walked out. And then I walked out and made the wrong turn. I had to go up, and I was going to go into the suites. So I walked out, and then I'm literally looking at Park Avenue now, and I'm like, oh, my God. And I wasn't even honest to God, I wasn't at all drunk Saturday. I drank all day, but I wasn't hammered. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was done. I was just just made the wrong turn, or it was like there's an inner bowl, there's an outer bowl of the stadium. So I'm like, damn. So I have to walk out on the park and then come around the stadium again and go through the suites entrance now. So I get at the suites entrance, and Marco was like, "Oh yeah, Austin's in the third floor." So I was like, "You sure?" He goes, "I'm sure he's on the third floor," and I know he was like second to the last one on the third floor. So I go up to the third floor on the elevator, sweating. I mean, sweating.
Yeah.
I get up to the third floor. I walk the whole way of the suites. I go down a flight of stairs. He ain't there. I go down a flight of stairs. And you go with the whole suites. Nope, not there. I got back down. I walked the whole.
Oh, boy.
He was second to the last one.
Oh, man.
On the first floor.
Uh-huh.
I walked in, and my wife was like, she was like, text me, "Are you coming up?" And I walked in, I was like, and I was like covered in sweat. And she was like, "Oh my God." And I was like, "Yeah, I think I just walked about 4 miles." And I was wearing my old my sideline shoes, my Air Joe Paternos.
Yeah.
Which were like this old school Nike turf shoe that had no heel stability, no Achilles. It was bad. And I'm walking around in these old 15-year-old, 25-year-old shoes. And, I paid for it. My knee, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the shoe or whatever, but I had a little knee pain on Saturday and Sunday. Pretty good. You'll see me get up here today, and I'll limp on out of here. Just sitting here stagnant makes it hurt. So, but there's a lot of walking Saturday, but worth it.
Yeah, again, it was just a fun night if you're a Penn State fan, for sure.
Yeah, and then, you know what? So I left in the third quarter. I was in the suite. I sat up there in the third quarter. I went outside. I was like, all right, it's time to break home right now. You know, the third quarter ended. I said, we can be in the car. We'll be home in 8 minutes. So we're home, and we missed like half of a drive in the third quarter.
Yeah.
The fourth quarter. And I watched the rest of our game, and I'm like sitting there watching television, and I'm popping around other channels. And then somebody called me and says, "Oh, my God, Alabama." I said, "Oh, I can't believe it's on." I mean, that game ended so much later than our game.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, because it was the scoring that was obviously going on, and we were just running the ball.
Yeah.
Our game was like a 2 hour and 15 minute, and theirs was like a 4 hour John. So, interested to see. But I'm with you. When people say, "Can we hang with Alabama or Georgia?" And you know, there is some absolutely unbelievable freakish athletes playing on the outside there, but I still think it starts up front. You can get pressure on their quarterbacks. They don't have time to throw to those guys. Can we protect our quarterbacks type of thing? So I'm talking about Alabama Georgia matchup. If we were to match up with them, where we would be. So I'd be okay with our interior line play the last 2 weeks. I'd be okay with going up against those guys to see where we're at.
Well, and it's just part of my faith, and maybe I'm overstating it. I have at least one friend that thinks I'm way overstating. I truly believe that they have elite coordinators right now. Mm-hmm. I think both Tom Allen and Andy Kotelnicki are just outstanding. And this is the other thing. So I do think also you have to understand the world that we're living in, because my one friend's I think Kotelnicki probably is, but that's going to be a problem too, because he's going to be gone. And I'm like, well, that could very well be. I mean, if Penn State's offense excels here, and certainly if they put up 35 and beat Ohio State, Kotelnicki will be a hot name on the head coaching trail.
And that's your job as an OC to do.
Well, but this is the other thing. So if you're James Franklin, you want Andy Kotelnicki, you'd love to have him long term, but you also are okay if he goes, like Manny Diaz is off to a 5-0 start at Duke. Well, if you don't think that other assistant coaches that are rising in the ranks and trying to make a name for themselves aren't seeing that, and if I go to Penn State, so again, we're getting ahead of ourselves, and let's just stay in the moment. I'm with you, but it's what we do is speculate. So let's just say worst case scenario from Penn State's standpoint / best case scenario, because again, Kotelnicki becomes a hot name only if Penn State is at least in the playoffs, and if this offense is operating at a high level. Correct. And so if they win a couple of games in the playoffs, Kotelnicki's name and the offense is lighting it up, yep, he becomes a hot name out there, and maybe he does go somewhere. But the thing is, then again, all right, they lost another high-profile coordinator. Look what keeps happening to these coordinators that go to Penn State. They get head coaching jobs at good schools, and, again, they're having some relative success here as well. Brent Pry, did you watch the end of that game? And I
sat over here and watched. I could not believe what I was watching.
I think they got the call right.
5 minutes.
So, but we can get into that. But anyway, but these guys are having success. So if Kotelnicki does leave, the thing is, I think Penn State will have just about its pick of the crop. Now, maybe if Alabama, but it's going to be, you're going to get one of the top 2 or 3 names out there if you have a coordinator's role to fill.
Wow, he's placing these guys as head coaching jobs. I just got to go to Penn State. Yes.
And if you look at and you're going to have talent. I know there's a chance Penn State's going to lose a lot of talent off of this year's roster, but the recruiting has been pretty darn solid here for the last couple of years. And so, again, I think it's going to be an attractive job is the bottom line. In the days of, I know there are Penn State fans, and you can wish, you can wish for the good old days as much as you want. I'm just telling you, at the end of the day, it is a good thing if your coordinators are leaving for head coaching jobs. Where it becomes a problem is if your coordinators are leaving for other coordinator jobs with other schools. It's like, well, that's not a good sign. But you're fine if you're Penn State, if that continues to happen.
I liked Manny, but I will go back to 2 Michigan games, the 2 years he played Michigan. He gave up 423 yards rushing one year, and the next year they ran 34 straight running plays at him. I'm sorry.
Well, at his defense.
Well, yeah. But if you're an elite coordinator, you stop that from happening. That's just me.
Yeah.
That's where I feel. I feel as if I can't believe that it had to happen to a Penn State team, let alone a Manny Diaz coach defensive team. And I don't think that he was held accountable for that. And that was bad. One is because one of my best friends is a Michigan guy, so I have to hear about it all the time.
I hear you.
But Kotelnicki has really, we were talking last night on the show, like, you see Singleton's touchdown, it was the same play as Warren's touchdown. It was just a different hole. It was a Wildcat offense. We got multiple guys playing out of the Wildcat. Who does Warren remind you of?
Well, I think,
when he's in that Wildcat. It was like Tim Tebow. Big left-hander running in the line of scrimmage, just burrowing over people, or he's just going to pop pass like he did a few.
Well,
I'm not talking like I'm talking about on the goal line Wildcat.
Well, so that is the other thing. So part of why I love Kotelnicki is I do think everything they do is with the idea of setting something else up. And I don't mean that they're going into each game. It's like, all right, we're just taking this game for granted and we're setting this up. I mean, there's a purpose behind everything. They're trying to get plays that work in the moment, but also they're wanting to see what defenses do, what the adjustments are, and then they're going to make their adjustments based on what they're seeing. And, this year is a really good one in that regard for Kotelnicki to run his offense, because you have now a veteran quarterback in Aller. You have a couple of veteran running backs. And so I think all of this stuff, like, you can scheme and the players get it. You have the depth on the offensive line was on full display on Saturday night, which is also one of the things that I don't know that maybe is getting enough attention is, again, you were down 2 guards at the same guard spot. That is, there's not a lot of teams that aren't, and Penn State did not miss a beat. I mean the offense, and I'm not saying the reason they produced better was because Cousins was in there and you got that Wormley out of there. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying, but it didn't miss a beat. If anything, the offense, and again, I think there's some various reasons for that, but that is a pretty big deal when you can go down to third team. Now, that's a little misleading in case of Cousins, and I get it, but you understand the point. You're down to your third guard, and the offense, you wouldn't have known it watching that offense operate in any componont of it. So
I'm impressed by Cooper Cousins.
He is. Yeah,
very impressed by an 18-year-old true freshman.
He's what he was advertised to be. He really is.
He really is. He has. I don't know who was teaching him, but he has the hold down. It's a tough thing to do, but you can get on to somebody, and he holding. He has his hands inside, and he grips up.
I thought that's
and he
what you
knows
said.
just enough time to. When there is the defensive player has to get his hands off, and he's not pulling that person, but his hands are inside and he's gripping.
Yeah,
that's an NFL player. I mean, he has been taught by somebody very, 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 very well on how to do that, because you just don't have that as an 18-year-old.
Yeah,
and then to have the strength to do it too. I mean, that is the biggest thing. He's 18.
Yeah,
and these are men out there, man. They're not little boys. They are men out there. And they have been for years. I mean, I was 18. I was no way in hell I was going out there and playing with those guys.
Yeah.
He is very, very impressive.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
I think, again, I think this team has been very good to this point. I think it's just going to continue to get better. Now, they need to get some luck here on the injury front moving forward. But I do think that other than the place kicking, I think everything else, again, the penalties are correctable, and I get, and I'm with you. It's been correctable for 4 weeks. I'm with you. At some point, as James Franklin said in his press conference on Monday, like, you just got to fix it. Like, we can't keep talking about it. We can't keep saying we're going to address it. Like, it just needs done. And it does. But I think it will. I mean, this has not been a pattern throughout Franklin's coaching tenure. So I do think they will get this rectified, and I think they'll do so before. Hopefully you see, and we've had the same conversation before each of the last 2 games too, and I understand that. But hopefully you do see a clean game. And I don't mean no penalties, but I mean none of the preventable ones. Not kicking a ball out of bounds, not jumping off sides, not false starts. Like that stuff that's free yards that there's no reason for you to be giving up. Now, again, every now and then you're going to accidentally grab a face mask, or you're going to, some of the targeting stuff, and we may talk about that with the NFL. Goon, that the Steelers certainly took it, and as a Steelers fan, I'm like, well, I'll take the 15 yards. But the roughing the penalty call they had on that first drive against Justin Fields was absurd. I mean, the guy comes in and he tackles the quarterback, and the flag flies. Like, you can't. It's tackle football.
What are we supposed to be doing now?
And I guess what they were saying is he if you drive through, it wasn't like he drove. If you go back and look at it, and again, this is a Steelers fan telling you that was a horrible call. We've gone too far, and I don't know that it's even the officials' fault. This is the league office saying, nope, we're going to take the over physicality away. That's fine as far as it goes, but now you're taking the physicality away. You can't. It's football. It is a rough, physical sport, but you've got to allow guys to be able to tackle, and you can't ask them to defy the laws of physics.
That's true.
When you're running full speed, and he didn't catch it. Well, okay, but I'm now less than a foot away. Like, you can't just stop. Like, you're asking people to do something that is physically impossible. And if the guy catches the ball, well, then nobody. Obviously, yes, the shoulder gets laid in and you make the tackle. We've got I don't know how you go about it, and it's a very difficult sport to officiate. I get it, and I know these guys want to get it right, and they're spending hours and all of that. But man, it is brutal.
I have
for
noticed
these players
the
to try to figure it
backfield
out.
Guys are finally not just laying guys out. Like they're thinking about it now.
Yeah.
And we're like maybe 3 or 4 years away from having a whole era of guys who are playing defensive back in the NFL that grew up with these rules, and they're gonna, there's a guy like Derwin Gray who gets suspended for a game because it excessive hits to the head type of thing. And it's like you see it on the sideline, you see it during games now where guys are pulling up, whereas back in the day they would just run through dudes.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see them hold up a little bit. Is that to the betterment of the game? I don't know. I mean, is it safer? Yeah, I get it. And I understand why they did it, why they do it, but we're changing the game up. We're changing the game in a big way. But you do see defensive backs holding up a little bit, and some of them are going low. Like, I hate those low body injuries to the big tight ends and stuff, guys catching passes, because they're taught not to go to the head now. They go to the waist and to the mid legs, and all of a sudden you see these snapped legs and ACLs and broken legs, and then they're going to start complaining about that. And it's like, what do you want these guys to do? I would not want to play defense in the NFL right now, or even in college. Growing up in general, it's like so slanted.
It is very tough to figure out.
I get it, but the rules change. I mean, you got to sit there like, how baseball players, they know the umpire, they know what kind of balls and strikes he's going to have. He calls it tight or he calls it wide. I mean, our NFL players looking at the officials now and figuring out what they call, and they adjust their game that way. It's crazy.
By the way, just I wanted to finally go back. I forgot to do this. Yes, Texas's remaining schedule. And I'm with you. They're going to stumble somewhere and maybe a couple of times yet. So they have the Red River rivalry here with Oklahoma. That's their next game, but they're idle this week, and then October 12th is the Oklahoma game. Then they're home with Georgia.
Oof.
They're at Vanderbilt. They're home with Texas, at Arkansas, home with Kentucky, and then at Texas A&M to wrap up the season. So it's not a daunting schedule.
Texas. Who was like the
Texas is Oklahoma, Georgia, Vanderbilt, Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky, and Texas A&M. Or at A&M.
You said Texas versus Texas.
No, at A&M. A&M.
Yeah, I got you.
Yep. Yeah, Texas A&M.
Yeah, go ahead. You're going to go undefeated there. Congratulations.
So,
you deserve every title you have.
And I'm not saying, I think it's within the realm of possibility, but I don't think it's happening.
That's what Georgia has Texas and Alabama in the same year.
Who does?
Georgia plays Alabama and Texas in the regular season. Wow. That's brutal.
Yeah, and that'll be it's so you just have to wait to see how all of this stuff plays out, because there's so many different scenarios, and there are things that, again, we think we know one week. And same thing in the NFL. People are getting so caught up in, oh my gosh, this team's only 2-2, 1-3 right now. Oh, this team's 3. Like, you'll get a better idea around the half point of the season. But even then, like, the Chiefs haven't looked great, but the fact that they're 4-0, and
matter.
Do you not think they're going to get it figured out by the time the end of the season comes? That they'll have figured out how to
be 13,
play around
13-4,
everything that
first round bye, everything happens
is involved there. So I don't know. It is going to be wild to watch what all happens here throughout the college football season and the NFL even more so, because to me the NFL is always, you got to do enough during the regular season to get there, obviously, meaning to the playoffs, but it is so much about who is healthy, who is making the push at the right time of the year. There is a whole lot of luck that comes into it. Any championship, any sport, any level, there is an element of luck, but it's just a lot more than I think sometimes we are willing to allow. when it comes to the NFL. All right, folks, we hope you have a great evening and a great Wednesday. We will be back on Thursday. We'll talk much more about the UCLA game. We'll have some playoff results to talk about, and we'll do all that and more on Thursday. Until then, be good and be safe. Oh, I don't want to do that. I'm hitting this.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorrento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing and State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen O'Habaker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen O'Habaker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen O'Habaker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
WFXS, once again.
Your sports radio. Broadcasting live, loud and proud from Central PA Sports Authority. WFXS America.
98.7 The Fox State College. The Goon and